Hey, Connie.
Hey, Scotty.
Nice to see you here.
See you.
It's so good to be here with you finally on our podcast, What Drives Her? Welcome to the What Drives Her podcast. This podcast is about the women who are changing the automotive industry from the inside. Each week, we will bring you a perspective from another woman in the automotive industry and the things that inspire her, the things that inspire us, and the things that are inspiring the entire automotive industry. Welcome to the second episode of What Drives Her, the podcast that talks to women who are changing the automotive industry from the inside. I'm Scotty Reese.
I'm Connie Peters.
And we are from A Girl's Guide to Cars, the website that talks about cars and women who are changing the automotive industry from the inside. Welcome to our second episode. Connie, it's great to see you again.
So nice to see you.
And it has been a nice change from the very hot summer to the cooler temperatures of fall, and getting back to a lot of things work-wise and automotive-wise. And it's busy, right? Have you been busy?
Yes, very.
Yeah. What do you have coming up?
I am going to Run to the Sun next week with the Northwest Automotive Press Association in Portland, Oregon, driving a day with EVs and a day with performance cars.
Run to the Sun. So what is that?
It's just what they call the event. Run to the Sun is supposed to be the performance cars, I believe. And then the Drive Revolution, which is the second day, is our EV drive day.
And so how many cars do you drive over those 2 days?
I'm not sure, to be honest. The last NOAPA event I went to, we had over 20 cars. And this time, I'm not sure. They haven't given us a list of cars yet, but I'm very, very curious.
I'm excited because while you're there, I'm going to be at the Texas Auto Writers Association truck rodeo. And I am just so excited that there is such a thing as a truck rodeo. And so we don't actually like lasso them and drive them around rings, but we do test drive them on an off-road course. So every truck and a whole lot of SUVs over the course of 2 days in North Texas. So
that sounds like a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. I'm sure Run to the Sun will be a lot of work too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's something that I think a lot of people don't understand about what we do. They think, oh, it's just fun. You just go out and you drive cars. Do you guys have to evaluate all the cars in the Run to the Sun?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're not allowed to leave without driving every single car and evaluating every single car. Our ballots have to be in at the end of each day.
Yeah, that's us too. I think we actually have a couple of days after the event to fill out our ballots online, but we have to drive everything and vote on everything. And I love how these events bring together all of these journalists to evaluate cars that are on the market so that consumers can, in theory, look and see, which cars win which awards from these journalists and get a better idea of what might be the right one for them, especially if they're considering two cars that are seemingly very similar.
Yes.
And then you see, but this one rated, much higher on all of these other criteria than this one. So we have a couple of guests today, writers who have spent some time evaluating cars for A Girl's Guide to Cars. And these are two women who particularly inspire me. So I was really excited to have them join us for the What Drives Her podcast. So the first person that we're going to talk to is a woman named Liv Leigh. And Liv, I met her about almost about a year and a half ago, I guess, at the New York Auto Show. It was one of those moments where it felt like, is this real? Somebody's like calling my name from across the room and says, I'm so excited to meet you. I love what you do. And I thought, is this real? It was a very humbling moment, very incredible moment. And as I got to talk to Liv, I noticed a couple of things. One is that she had a prosthetic leg, and another that she had some visible scars and disability. And also that her energy and her she had this very bubbly personality. She has a very bubbly personality, and she had this really incredible sense of happiness and high level of energy. And I just by meeting her was inspired, and I thought, I need to get to know her better. And so we connected, and she's been writing about cars and writing about disability, writing about different strategies people can use when they have a particular disability, and things they should think about when they're evaluating a car for someone with a disability. Because, you know, not every person who gets behind the wheel of a car, Connie, you know, is exactly sized like the probably 5'10", 150-pound guy who reviewed it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who wrote about it for Car and Driver or Motor Trend or whoever. So, you know, we're all different, and often those reviewers don't, and we're guilty of that. I'm guilty of that too, of not looking at a car from the perspective of all the different people who might drive it. And so I do try to think about at least different size and height differences. But when you think about accessibility, when you think about the ease of use of the controls, when you think about how to accommodate for things so that you do have that freedom and that mobility that a car gives you, those are things that Liv thinks about and writes about for us.
That's amazing. And she also has a YouTube channel. So she was doing video before she met you, correct? With cars.
Yes.
And yes. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is inspiring. I've met her a few times. She's a great lady.
Yeah, she really is. And she, the one video that I would say that made me cry tears of joy was something that she shot recently at the Detroit Auto Show. She was at the show. She had her prosthetic leg. Sometimes she covers it with pants, so you wouldn't really know that it's there, but often she'll be wearing yoga pants or something and you can see. And she was. And she climbed into the back of the F-150 pickup truck and gave us a full tour. Actually, it's on our Instagram channel, a full tour. And you can see how someone with a prosthetic leg still can access all of the features of the Ford F-150, which I will tell you, the first time I climbed into the back of a pickup truck, you know, with no disability at all, just a very big sense of being nervous. It was intimidating. So to see her do it was inspiring to me. It's tears of joy.
Good. Yeah.
All right, let's introduce, before we go to that interview, who are you going to be interviewing today?
I spoke with Annika Carter, and she is a car girl. She works on her cars. She races her cars. She's really inspiring in a way that I can't understand or relate to. I can't imagine crawling underneath my car and fixing stuff myself. So I find that incredibly inspiring, as well as racing. I love seeing her racing content. So I was really excited to talk to her.
That's awesome. She is inspiring. And she, not only is she a racer and a mechanic, but she's also an excellent writer, which was a delight to see. She just loves cars and loves reviewing cars. So she's a great one that we are lucky to have in our universe. And so with that, let's go to the interview with Liv Leigh. So without further ado, let me introduce you to a friend, a hero, and a colleague, Liv Leigh. Welcome, Liv.
Oh, Scotty, you're so kind. Thank you so much. And I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you here because we're kindred spirits in a certain way. And that is, we both embarked on this journey of sharing automotive content without really a framework, without mentors, without models in place. And so I'm curious, what is it that inspired you? Why did you want to write about cars?
Well, I actually started making videos about cars, and I think it was probably similar to you in that I didn't see myself echoed in the media. I didn't see people like me. I didn't see a lot of women. I didn't see a lot of disabled people. And I appreciate you saying how much you have to walk around the auto show, because you know when you do something that you're really passionate about and excited about, and you sort of block out everything else. So that's how it ends up being for me, is I'm just so excited to be there. And it was so exciting to be at the auto show, to be in this industry and to have access to the stuff and to start playing with these cars and like putting myself in them and challenging them and testing the ergonomics in a way that I hadn't seen represented. So that moment when I met you, it definitely was a kindred moment. And it was just so wonderful to get the opportunity to then start writing with a Girl's Guide to Cars, because we are underserved. Women are underserved in this industry. Disabled people are underserved, and have the opportunity to provide that voice and to be a person who's there playing with the stuff, asking the questions, investigating and exploring is truly something that I enjoy and that makes me ignore pain until the end of the day. And then you're like, ooh, okay, painkiller time.
Well, you mentioned underserved, and I think that's such a great way of putting it, because women are the primary buyer of cars, and yet there's very little content out there for us. And then you think about all of the people with either a physical disability or some sort of challenge that, the average car reviewer who's a, 5'10" or 6 foot tall guy who probably is in perfect health, doesn't consider, like, how do you set the seats, or how do you accommodate steering when, your hand doesn't work like everybody else's, or how do you reach the pedal when, when you have a prosthetic leg and one that's not prosthetic, that's a natural leg. But, those are accommodations that we have to figure out when, and the average mainstream media is not a lot of help to that. So tell us a little bit about your vlog. You said you started making videos first.
Yeah, it was about the Mustang Mach-E. My husband and I reserved one, and we sort of started documenting the whole switching to an EV lifestyle thing. And since then, it's been an exploration of not just the EV lifestyle, but other cars as well. And it's interesting, your insight also, because I find that the things that I share, like trying to use a car with a prosthesis, it's not only amputees that identify with that. I've also had people, elderly people, or anyone with some kind of mobility issue who are happy to have someone who is not the 5'10", perfectly healthy person. So it's just been this evolution that started on YouTube about my car and has evolved into just the most exciting passion and hobby and new lifestyle for me.
That is so excellent. And it's exciting to see you branching out into these new areas, because before you did this, did you create any video content?
I did. I had like a travel adventure channel. I had a makeup channel. I've just always really enjoyed sharing knowledge and educating people, and also being loud and out there, or just myself, whatever. But asking questions, I think it can be scary sometimes asking questions, right? And like we have that voice that holds us back. And I feel like in a really privileged position now to be able to ask questions about vehicles that someone might not be comfortable saying at a dealership when there's someone, pressurizing them or whatever. So to be able to say, why is this like this? Does this have to be like this? And or just recommend different things. Like it's a privilege to be able to do that, and I'm loving it.
So what gave you the confidence to ask those questions? Because that's, I think, a big issue that a lot of women have, is they just don't feel, they have the question, but they don't feel confident enough to ask the question. What gave you the confidence?
I don't have it. I think I have to remind myself that we all probably are feeling self-conscious, right? And to just go with it, because someone has to ask those questions, right? And I try to think of it as though I was talking to a best friend. Like, your thoughts are valid. You are valid. What you believe is valid. And in so many situations in this industry where you're surrounded by mostly men, you really have to encourage yourself in that way as well. Like, it's okay to think differently to other people, but to the other people here as well. Like, you're still valid. So I definitely don't feel super confident, but I try to give myself that encouragement of a best friend.
So, well, I appreciate that best friend voice because I think that is where we are different from so much other automotive content, is that we really look at things from the perspective of what would you tell your best friend? And I always say, what would you tell your mom, your sister, your best friend? What would you want them to know? And I think that's the most valuable thing that we share. So let me ask you this. Well, and by the way, I will point out that the questions that you have and that I have, that we all have, and we think women are so hard on ourselves because we think, oh, well, I'm sure everybody else in this room knows the answer to that question, so I'm not going to answer the question. I'm not going to ask that question. And then, but the men don't. And you hear men asking the same questions. They're not afraid to ask that question. And sometimes I ask a question in a group of men, in a room full of men, and then they advance the discussion beyond even what I was thinking, which is phenomenal. And it's that thing that our middle school teachers used to tell us: there's no such thing as a stupid question. Just ask what's on your mind. And I think for some reason we get intimidated and we don't do that. But let me ask you this. Because I've learned so much since I started writing about cars. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned clearly a lot about cars. I've learned a lot about other women. What have you learned about yourself since you started your car content journey?
Oh, that's an interesting question, and I think it really ties into everything we were just talking about. I think I've learned that I am brave because I'm scared a lot. Like I find it scary and I find it challenging to get into different vehicles. I have a right leg prosthesis, so I drive with my left leg crossed over. That is not typically something that's accommodated for in every vehicle. I also have dexterity issues in my left hand, so I try to be very careful and very cautious. And cars are dangerous and they're scary, right? They're exciting and they're fun and they're powerful and they give us freedom. But this is also a piece of machinery that we have to respect. So
Mhm.
the majority of the time I'm pretty scared, and I'm just trying to be careful and learn about this and be respectful of this machinery, and also take advantage of these amazing opportunities to elevate other people's questions and voices and learn all about it. So I've learned that I'm brave and I'm scared all the time.
And that doesn't hold you back.
No, it doesn't.
Why
I
not?
hope not. I don't think. I mean, what is that saying? Bravery is being scared and doing it anyways. Like, that's the life I want to live, and it's the same as going to the auto show and being in terrible pain at the end of the day, but it's worth it, and it's so fun and such an honor and a responsibility to be one of the women that are in this industry. And I'll just have to say, if other women are thinking about getting in the industry, please do, because we need more of us there. So being in this industry is a responsibility that I don't take lightly, and I'm thrilled. So that's where the bravery comes from. It's like, this is a great opportunity. I'm not going to just throw it away.
I love that you say that it's a responsibility that you're not going to take lightly. I feel the same way, but it is a heavy responsibility, but it's also a lot of fun. And so look at the smile on her face. Cars are a lot of fun. And it's funny. I think a lot of people have thought for a long time that electric cars could not be fun. Are electric cars fun?
Oh, they're so fun. I mean, we could say more fun maybe, but like they are so fun. And if you're scared or if you haven't driven one, I just encourage you to try, because I'm pretty sure you'll end it with a smile on your face, or the whole drive as well. They're so fun, and it's just getting more fun.
What is it? Tell me a little bit about what you've learned about cars since you've started writing and creating content about cars, and tell me what thrills you or excites you or makes you giggle the most.
Oh, that's so interesting. Honestly, I think that what I've learned and what makes me giggle is seeing people find something that's right for them. And I know that sounds like kind of cheesy, but like I've learned that there's something for everyone, and it's also part of like being surrounded in different industries and having a different opinion, or different groups, right? That it's not always the most powerful car that's the coolest, and it's not all about like what has the most range, if it's an EV, or what has the most storage? It's what is right for each person. And so it's been something that I really enjoy is seeing people excited about what's right for them. Because like something with a whole bunch of seats for a big family is not necessarily right for me. But to see someone really psyched about that and excited to have something that gives them and their family that freedom is really cool. And that's just something I appreciate.
And what do you love the most? So you drive a Mustang Mach-E, Mach-E
Yeah.
or a Mach-E GT?
Mach-E GT Performance Edition.
Uh-huh. And what's your favorite thing about that car? And I'm going to say, let's talk about performance, because that once you take performance off the table, then there's a whole other list of things to get excited about. So tell me what you like about the performance of that car.
Well, the GT specifically has MagneRide, which is like a magnetic suspension, and it's just lovely. It's truly a beautiful, smooth ride. And I like that it means that you're not thinking about the road or how bumpy it is or rough it is, and you're just enjoying the drive, enjoying the ride. So
And and it has fast acceleration though.
yeah, it's I think it's 3.5. Yeah, 0 to
0 to
60.
60, 3.5
Yeah.
seconds. Yeah.
I don't push it. My husband pushes it.
But even just, merging onto the highway could be fun, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, truly. But honestly, like this just goes back to EVs being super fun and enjoyable is I just love how quiet it is. It's just so quiet and you get to enjoy your music. Like you don't realize how loud a car is until you switch to an EV and then you're playing your favorite tunes. Like this is actually my own little bubble and I'm just floating around in it. It's just great.
It is, it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time the last couple of weeks in some EVs, and it is, you forget the quietness is actually a luxury. And if you think about it, car makers have spent a lot of time trying to dampen this outside sound and even dampen the noise from the engine and the vibration and all of that to make cars quiet, because quiet is luxurious. And that's a part of the mark of a luxury car is how quiet it is. So to think about taking away that very loud engine and replacing it with a silent motor is quite a luxury in itself, even if the Mustang Mach-E GT is definitely a luxury car, but not all electric cars are luxury cars, but the electric part of it to me is very much a luxury.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's an
Yeah.
interesting way to say it. It is luxury by default, isn't it?
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
by definition. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, last question. From everything that you've learned, what's the one piece of advice? And we talked a little bit about having confidence and having courage, but beyond that, piece of advice that you would give someone who's buying a car, what would you tell them?
I have to say one thing. Honestly, I would say don't feel pressured by anyone. Take your time. If you don't be pressured by salespeople. Ask for what you want. Go try out vehicles, and if you want to be alone when you try out the vehicle, go take it out and ask them for that, and make sure that you're comfortable and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Yeah.
Such good advice. Such good advice. I think that's so true. We were talking a little bit ago about solo test drives, and many dealerships say they won't allow you to do that. And we call BS on that, because I've done solo test drives, and I know plenty of other people who have. And I've even like checked a car out. I provide my driver's license and my insurance on my car, and I take the car over and have another mechanic check it out. So so I know you can do that, and I can't believe that would be. They'll tell you all kinds of things. I think we heard, oh, it's a law. It's not a law. So I think you're right. You've got to stand up for what you want and be firm. And I think I would add one piece of advice to that, which is there's always another dealer. You can always find another dealer for that
You're
car.
totally right.
It's never just
Yeah.
one. So
Yeah, and it's not just like being firm about the deal, it's being firm about the whole process. You can dictate. Yeah.
what was your first car?
My first car was a Nissan Sentra, hand me down. But my first beloved car was the car that I had before the Mustang Mach-E. It was a 98 RAV4 that I drove for 17 years. And I love used cars. I love utilitarian cars. I'm not a huge fan of luxury, and I think cars are fun and they're freedom, and I hate to say this, I kind of like knowing that I can scratch up my car a little bit. So that was my beloved. I love that car.
To not feel guilty when your dog gets in the car with muddy feet, that's a pretty good thing.
Yeah, exactly that. When my dog first saw me when I drove up with that car, he jumped up on the window and scratched it. So I was like, guess it's
Oh,
mine now.
yep. But that's good. That's good. You know, you make it your own. You make it your own. I will say, I hate it when somebody takes the seat cover out of the back, because I put it back there. I'm very meticulous about it, so I don't have dog fur all over the back seat. And then somebody takes it out, and it drives me crazy. I have
I
to
would
put it
hand
back.
them a vacuum and be like, okay
I
then.
know, right? I know. I know.
Yeah.
Well, Liv, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me. You guys can find Liv on A Girl's Guide to Cars. And also, what's the name of your vlog?
My vlog is Mach-E Vlog on YouTube, so you can find me there.
Mach-E Vlog on YouTube.
Mach-E
And you
Vlog.
do that in conjunction with your husband, Patrick, as well, right?
I do indeed. Yeah, we make lots of EV life videos and it's super fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And thanks for being a part of our world, Liv.
Thank you so much, Scotty. It's been a blast.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's so nice to see you.
You
I'm
too.
sad that it's not in person, but hey, you never know what will bring us together again next time, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So tell me, Annika, why did you want to start writing about cars?
Because I was invited to, number one, right? Because I met you and I met Scotty, and Scotty invited me to start writing for you guys. But I've been in the car world for a while, but a completely different side of the car world,
Yes,
not the journalistic side. And
tell me about that.
so the thought of like getting into this other side of the car world was very intriguing to me. I come from a background of maintenance. I work on my cars, kind of the car scene, the car meets, and racing. And there's a big divide between those worlds and the journalism world, and between the people involved in those worlds and the people in the journalism world. So that was intriguing to me, number one. And number two, really, A Girl's Guide to Cars is one of the reasons that I decided I wanted to start writing. It's a scary world to be a woman in, and I think it's a scary world for the average woman. And I know this because, my parents are not automotively inclined at all. And my mom will call me all the time with questions now. Like, ever since I've gotten into cars, she calls me all the time with questions about, her car and what's going on and things like that, just because she doesn't feel like she can trust, the car salesman or the mechanic or whoever it is. And so I loved writing for a publication that's kind of a little more about making this whole world accessible to the women out there who don't necessarily feel comfortable in it.
Totally agree. That's so fantastic. And that leads perfectly into, how do you overcome that? It can be a little bit intimidating to go to a male dominated event like a car reveal or a press drive or a media drive. And how do you overcome that? Or are you intimidated in that space?
I mean, at this point, because I've been in the space for so long, the most nerve-wracking thing is when I go to a press event and I don't know anyone.
Right.
Man or woman, right? I'm like, I don't know anyone. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, awkwardly stand in the corner until someone smiles at me. But
I hear you.
But starting my journey into the car world was not in journalism, and so my journey getting comfortable with being the only woman in the room at a very male-dominated event was not in journalism. It was in racing. And thankfully, for the most part, at least on that side of things, most of the guys were very welcoming and very like, we want to have more of you. And I get, more women in the car industry. Let me say that better. And I get that too when I go to press events. Sometimes it's the representatives from the manufacturers even saying like, we love to have you here. We'd love to see women represented in this industry. So I think when you hear that from, 90% of the men who you meet, it makes it a lot easier. And unfortunately, there are some times that you don't feel quite so welcome. But I guess I've just kind of learned to have the thick skin and, there's no matter what space you're in, no matter what you do, there's always someone who doesn't want you there. I mean, you could be doing, the most female, you could be, a makeup influencer, right? The most female dominated thing I can think of off the top of my head right now. And there's going to be someone who doesn't want you there. So, you just gotta take it and focus on the positives.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I love that take and the way that you feel about that. And would you say, what have you learned since kind of coming into journalism from racing and car enthusiasts and now into writing about new cars and maybe something totally different than your race cars?
I've learned, I said this earlier, that they are two completely different worlds. I guess that the short way to say it is I knew a lot less than I thought I did. Yeah.
Amazing.
And it's, it's also, well, one of my biggest struggles has been actually taking what I know and create like sharing it in a way that is accessible and understandable to other people. Because I'm used to communicating with my crew chief and I get out of the car and I say, hey, the car feels loose in this corner in the rear end. And he immediately knows what to do. But if I go and I write, the car feels loose in the rear end, there's going to be probably 75 at least % of our readers are going to say, what do you mean it feels loose in the rear end? Like, what does that feel like? Because they're not out there sliding cars. They're not out there pushing cars to the limit. They don't know what loose in the rear end feels like.
Right.
So that's been my biggest challenge and my biggest learning experience just in, adapting how I share things.
Right. That's my dog snorting, sitting beside me. What those weird noises are. He always seems to wake up when I'm trying to work in a video situation. And when I'm just sitting in here working, he's quietly sleeping. But of course he has snorting while I'm on a call. So
well, if it makes you feel any better, the only reason there's not a cat in my face is because she's not in my room right now.
Okay. Well, it does make me feel better because I have two cats and one of them made an appearance this morning when I was chatting with you. He popped up right beside me here. Gotta love our animals, but that they're a big part of our lives, of course. And would you say that is the main thing you've learned about yourself since starting this is that you knew a lot more than you thought you did, and now conveying those technical car details to a general audience or to like a general car buyer, is that like the biggest thing you've learned, or has there been other things?
It's been a combination of, I've had to learn how to relay things differently. And then it's more so like I learned that I know less than I thought I did, because I would like to think I'm very knowledgeable in how cars handle on a racetrack and in car setup and in Miatas and Mustangs because I own them.
Mm-hmm.
But then I end up in this completely different space and talking with the other journalists who are, using different terms and talking about these things that I don't think of ride quality when I'm driving a race car.
Right.
I don't think of what the adaptive suspension feels like at different speeds because I'm like, I want stiff suspension and it hurts my back every time I go over a bump. Like that's a race car, right? So yeah, it's like it's this whole area of knowledge that I just never had because I never had to think about it.
Right. I love that. It's very cool and good for you for making that leap and taking chances and trying new things. I love that.
It's been fun.
That's good. I love hearing that. So do you have advice for car buyers?
Yes. Do your research. I mean, I think that's probably what everyone says. But it's really easy to, number one, like I mentioned earlier, it's intimidating. It's intimidating for everyone, man or woman. Like if you are not knowledgeable about the car you're going to look at, if you're not knowledgeable about cars in general, really, and you're going to a dealership, like there's a reason people sometimes call them stealerships, right? Because people don't trust the people who work there. This is just an interesting aside. I heard once that the least trusted profession is a car salesman.
Wow.
So, it's scary to go there. And so it's really easy to just talk to your friend. Your friend says, I love my Honda Civic, and you go buy a Honda Civic.
Yeah.
But that's a really good way to get into a car that might not be right for you.
Right.
So just because your friend likes it, take that into account. Ask them why they like it. What features do they like? Why is it a good fit for them in their life? But then adapt that to your life and figure, and ask, well, is that a good fit for my life?
Yeah.
And go to websites like A Girl's Guide to Cars, read the reviews. You can go on YouTube. There's so many car reviews on YouTube. Test drive a lot of cars. It's free to test drive, right? Go test drive a few different cars, figure out what you like best, do your research, and find the right car for you, not just your friend's favorite car.
Yeah, I love that advice. That is right on. I agree. It's been so lovely talking to you, Annika. I wish we could get together again and be in New York City together again doing car stuff. But,
soon.
Yes, but hopefully soon. And
Yes.
And a real pleasure having you on the podcast, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Connie.
Wow, Connie, Annika's interview is incredible. That she knows so much, and for her to say that there's something that admit that there's stuff that she doesn't know makes me feel so much more comfortable admitting what I don't know.
Yes, that's such a hard thing to admit, is saying that you don't know something or that you know less than you thought you did. But she's so inspiring in the way that she's always open to learning more and not afraid to learn more.
Yeah. And it makes you feel confident that it's okay to ask that question, or it's okay to be not the most knowledgeable person, I guess, as long as you have the curiosity to figure out what it is that you don't know. But I really loved that she talked about that, and that she was not, that she didn't come from a family of car people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. To have the confidence to find who you are.
Yes.
And that you're drawn to a particular, well, you know this because you did the same thing. Like, you were drawn to this particular business without being brought up in that culture.
Yeah.
So, and Liv.
Yes.
Liv, she's a mermaid. Isn't she?
Yes. Yeah, she is. Fantastic.
Yeah, she is so inspiring, and I love her curiosity and her enthusiasm for being able to tell these car stories, and the people that she meets and the stories that she tells, not only on our channels but on her channels too.
Absolutely, I love watching her.
Yeah, she's great. She's great. Well, be sure to follow Liv. She is Liv Shaka on her Instagram, and the Maki vlog, and which she does with her husband, Patrick. It's interesting. She didn't talk about much about Patrick, but he really does help her a lot. And don't you think it's important to have somebody who supports us in what we do?
Absolutely, 100%. I'm sure she wouldn't be able to do what she's doing without him. They work together as a great team.
Yeah, they are a great team. But you're like that too. I mean, you rely on your family for help in doing what you do.
Of course. Yeah, I don't think any of us can without some support system around us. That is so key.
It is key. It is key. But it's also great because it really helps us to do the things that we do. My husband always drives me to and from the airport. And I read somewhere that someone really loves you if they'll drive you to the airport.
Absolutely, 100%. I don't know if I should doubt my love for my husband's love for me, because he will not drive me to the airport most times. Sometimes he does, but most of the time.
Oh, it's so funny. But yeah, it's those little things that we do for one another is it's so meaningful because it allows us to do so much more. Thank you for spending time with Annika, and it was great to spend time with Liv. Thank you for being here with us on the What Drives Her podcast. Our podcast is produced by A Girl's Guide to Cars, me, Scotty Reese, and Connie Peters. Edited by Stephanie Howard. Music by Envato. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter for updates in your inbox every week. Follow along on social media. You'll find us on all the socials, and we will see you again and talk to you again next week. Thanks, everybody.